Well, after the first 10 races of the season, we still can't pick a title favourite out of this lot. Just 5 points separate the top three going into race 2 of the weekend in round 6 of the International GTOpen in 2023, which comes from Monza. Yesterday, it was Pierre-Louis Chauvet and Maximilian Paul in the number 63 Oregon Lamborghini that was victorious, and they are on pole again today, but with a significant handicap to have to take as well. Going into this one, with Rhys Barr and Christopher Haase completing the top 3 on the grid, we are certainly set for an intense fight, which has 2 of our title favourites starting in the top 4, one of them not even making it into the top 10. Certainly, we are going to be keeping an eye on the championship standings come the end of this 61-minute race around this magnificent Monza circuit. My name is Chris Stevens. Alongside me, it's George Morgan. George, this title fight just keeps on delivering.
It certainly does, Chris, and welcome everybody. And it's wonderful to be here under sunshine here at the Temple of Speed. We didn't have such conditions as such yesterday, despite the rain dissipating as the rain went on. This time around, though, we have a dry track with a clear blue sky and also some clarity in terms of where the grid formulates after a very, very stellar qualifying, at least from the Oregon team, who have just made it 2 poles out of 2 this weekend. But also, it's made the championship much more convoluted. Off the back of yesterday's race, it's brought Christopher Haase and Simon Riker into the fight, and they're now 5 points away from top spot, with Charlie Fagg now on top, level on points currently with the team that are currently sat in 12th on the grid. Diego Menchaca, of course, no Marcos Seibert this weekend because Thomas Neubauer is now at the helm. The front row, though, of this particular grid order, it's thrilling. Pierre-Louis Chauvet and Max Paul, after winning yesterday, they're looking to come back and get the big results again after achieving pole. Rhys Barr, stellar this morning in qualifying.
Yes, and surely one of the youngest front rows this championship has seen in a long while. The 21-year-old Pierre-Louis Chauvet starting alongside the 22-year-old Rhys Barr from County Donegal in Ireland, and he certainly had a very sensational qualifying. He had his best qualifying of the season last time out in Red Bull Ring. He's gone one better this weekend by putting it on the front row of the grid. Here's a look at the championship leaders, though, Charlie Fagg and Sam Dehan in the Optimum Motorsport number 69 McLaren. They start alongside one of their title rivals in the form of Christopher Haase in the East Talent Audi on the second row of the grid. This is the Pro-Am pole position. Milos Pavlovic, class of the field in that category, ahead of David Fuminelli in the re-liveried Kessel Ferrari 296. They took second place in the Pro-Am battle yesterday. I'm sure Fuminelli will want to go one better than that today.
Absolutely right indeed. David Fuminelli, proven to be a consistent performer where it comes to qualifying, now sees himself back in the top 10. Another car that sees itself back in the top 10 is Yannick Mettler and Dexter Muller. And they weren't pulling any punches in terms of how they felt the race went yesterday. They certainly felt they should have perhaps got more out of it. It wasn't necessarily a grand performance, though this car pulled off a pretty grand Stellus display, though. Steve Jans and Axel Blom back at the top, only this time they too have to sustain a 10-second handicap during the pit stop window due to the success of yesterday's race. But I'm sure that they'll have a lot of motivation, a lot of promise. Another car with a lot of promise is the other McLaren 720S, that being driven by Lewis Proctor as part of the Proctor family. Of course, Stuart Proctor will be taking the helm after the driver change, well, as the driver change window unfolds. After the Proctors, we do have Riccardo Agostini and Nicola Marinangeli as well, both a combination that won back at Red Bull Ring, and they're back again this time at Monza.
Yes, the Pro-Am fight in particular is really intense because we've got the top 5 in that class, all starting line astern on the grid. Here's an exciting young lineup at the Get Speed team aboard their number 6 machine that was on the podium yesterday with Aaron Walker and now James Wallace at the wheel of that car. Third different teammate in as many races for Aaron Walker since that car made its debut back at Le Castellet. But James Wallace seemingly being the favourite amongst them, given they were on the overall podium yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely right. They have a great chance, and nevertheless, the race, I'm sure, will unfold in dramatic circumstances as it has done throughout. And of course, going back to James Wallace, what a defence that was. Certainly trying to hold on to the lead that they had managed to grasp after the driver change window had unfurled. You can see now the people, garage engineers being ferried away off the circuit, as now only a few remain out on track. Last few moments, some few last words dispatched to the drivers behind the wheels, the co-drivers as well, getting their last 2 pennants in as well before we undertake the formation lap. But lots certainly on the table, and certainly with the championship fights coming to a close. We do have, of course, Barcelona coming up after this, and this, I am sure, will be the perfect appetizer before we head to Barcelona in only 3 or 4 weeks' time.
Yeah, so 3 races left in the championship, including this one. And of course, yesterday it was the Motor Park pairing and the Optimum Motorsport pairing that scored quite low, just 9th and 10th for them yesterday. It was a real 50-50 in what started out as a bit of a deluge and moved into drier conditions as the race went on. A real 50-50 about whether to take slicks or wets. Well, let's take you through yesterday's race. Now, we got started under safety car conditions. It was Maximilian Paul who led the way ahead of Carol Bash in very different conditions to what we see now. And they tussled for the lead briefly before Pierre-Louis Chauvet got on board that number 63 Oregon Lamborghini. And he had a mega tussle with James Wallace on his debut in the International GTOpen. The Lamborghini on slicks, the Mercedes on wet tyres. And that meant they would swap places throughout the lap. But this was the move that counted for Chauvet and the one that consolidated him the lead. Though a very dramatic moment, though, for the sister Oregon Lamborghini, Pietro Perolini putting it into the barriers with only a few minutes left and denying them a chance of a 1-2 finish. But on the other side of the garage, glory for the number 63 team for the 4th time this season. And this is what it's done to the championship standings. Still Charlie Fagg and Sam Dehan that lead the way, but now Diego Menchaca level on points with him, and Christopher Haase and Simon Riker only 5 points back. And the 63 pairing of Paul and Chauvet, maybe 21 points back, but we cannot discount them in these final 3 races, given the form that they are on. Race 2 in round 6, about to get underway then. This could be crucial for the championship. Here is how they line up for this 60-minute encounter. Back-to-back pole positions for Oregon and number 63. Reese Barr, his best qualifying of the season on the front row of the grid. Then it's Christopher Haase, the Audi Works driver, starting alongside the championship leader, Charlie Fagg. Milos Pavlovic on Pro-Am pole ahead of David Fuminelli, yesterday's second-place finisher in that category. Then Yannick Mettler, a new gearbox aboard that Carbahn Mercedes, alongside yesterday's Pro-Am race winner, Steve Jans. Lewis Proctor, and then behind him is Riccardo Agostini in the AF Corsa Ferrari that won a Red Bull Ring. James Wallace on the podium yesterday, starts from 11th ahead of Diego Menchaca, now tied on points for the championship lead. Conrad Grunewald and Giorgio Cernigiotto at the head of the AM field. Then Adam Osaka and Philip Barron, another hotly contested category there being the AM field. Pietro Perolini starts 17th ahead of Giuseppe Cipriani on the 9th row of the grid. Cipriani running solo in this race ahead of Marcin Jedlinski and Heiko Neumann, the AM Championship leader going into this weekend, and the Motorpark Mercedes. Nick Moss on his return to the championship alongside Joe Osborne is 21st, and then Laurent Demeus. Gino Fulgioni and Marco Polcini, another class leader there, this time in Pro-Am. Then Murat Çororoglu celebrating his 60th birthday today from 25th on the grid, ahead of Jahid Faisal Karim in the Street Art Aston Martin. And then rounding out the grid is Nicolo Rossi and Stanislav Jedlinski for a 28-car field. We have lost a couple of cars due to some circumstances. Some have been able to recover. Of course, one car that we do not have is the Altitude Racing by Optimum Motorsport McLaren of Andy Gilbert and Fran Raider. Andy Gilbert, unfortunately, during an incredibly wet Friday test day, had an unfortunate incident at the Parabolica and has 3 fractures in his leg, and we wish him all the best and a speedy recovery.
Yeah, we do. And thoughts are obviously with that of the Altitude Racing team and that of Andrew Gilbert. We wish him a speedy recovery and look forward to hopefully seeing him back at the International GTOpen in the future. Nevertheless, though, the stewards now, with the wave of yellow flags, the cars now make their way around on the formation lap. And now we will wait and see as they now look to get the temperature up into the tyre compounds, get the grip levels up. You'll need them in the heavy braking zones, because very soon we will be hitting pedal to the metal, and it will be go for the penultimate round of the International GTOpen Championship.
I cannot stress enough, George, how much I'm loving this championship fight. It's been real tit for tat, blow by blow, and at one point we were saying that the East Talent squad needed a big result to stay in this championship fight. It's exactly what they delivered yesterday. They've got a good starting position, but one of their nearest rivals, Charlie Fag, is starting alongside them. The team I'm worried about at the moment is Motorpark, with Menchaca going from 12th on the grid, and he and Thomas Neubauer are going to need a big result here as well. Neubauer being thrown in at the deep end, really. It has been Marcos Seeber alongside Menchaca. That's why he's third in the standings there, as we can see. Alongside Menchaca in that car all season long, but he's also contesting in the European Le Mans Series LMP3 Championship, and the last two rounds clash with the GTOpen, and he is currently leading those standings. In fact, he's racing right now, I believe, so we wish him well for that, but unfortunately it means he can't contest for the title, and so the 24-year-old Frenchman, Thomas Neubauer, having to come in and fulfill Seeber's role there. Hasn't raced a Mercedes before yesterday for 4 years, but the fortunate news for the Motorsport team is the last time he raced a Mercedes, he won a Blancpain class title in it, so he certainly knows what he's doing.
Yeah, very, very strong performers. And obviously we speak about Thomas Neubauer, his experience in GT3 racing. He has lots of it. He's a Silver Cup champion. He's also been a sprint champion, as well as competing at the highest level, winning races, and they'll be calling upon his expertise here in the International GTOpen. Certainly Diego Menchaca will be calling upon it to help his own plaudits in this championship fight. Remember, level on points with Charlie Fag and Sam de Haan. It's currently sat at 0 deficit between the two teams. There's the East Talent Audi, only a mere 5 points away from clinching the top spot. They can bring themselves level. They might be something more after this very race. But what about Pierre-Louis Chauvet on pole position after a stellar qualifying? Max Paul put it on pole yesterday. It was Pierre-Louis Chauvet who brought them to the pole this time, and off the back of winning yesterday, if they can win it this time, I can picture Jerry Cannaviccio right now.
Can't we all? Now, that car, the form it's been in lately, it has taken 4 wins in the last 6 races. Unfortunately, those other 2 races, they didn't score points in. Now, this looks like Nick Moss is going to be starting from the pit lane here. He was due to start 21st on the grid, but looks like he's going from the pit lane. He and Joe Osborne coming back to the GTOpen for this round just for fun, they say. Of course, they were big contenders for the title last year. Very different face of the championship this time around, as the Oregon team watches on nervously, their car starting on the left-hand side as we will look at it. The SBS team, I'm sure, nerves there as Rhys Barr, the Irishman, will start alongside Chauvet. But the form for Lamborghini has been utterly impressive in these last few races. Were it not for a pretty tumultuous start to the season, they could well be much further into this championship fight. We cannot discount them at all. 3 races remain in the International GTOpen in 2023. Race 2 of round 6 is about to get underway with 5 points only separating the top 3 in the championship. We have no idea yet who is going to be walking away with the crown, and it is a slow build to the lights, but the lights are out now at Monza. Pierre-Louis Chauvet moves across and covers the inside, but look at Charlie Fag on the outside line there, storming ahead in the red zebra. Looks like he's already cleared Rhys Barr's Mercedes, and Christopher Haas are trying to get up on the inside as well. 3 wide for second place going into the first corner, and it looked like there was a potential touch there between the second and third place car of Charlie Fag and Christopher Haas. 2 big title contenders coming to blows there in the first corner, but Chauvet is clear.
Yeah, in the top 3, all 3 cars are in this championship fight. Chauvet still has the lead, but in behind Charlie Fag, managing to usurp that of the Audi East Talent that is now sat in 3rd place. You can see Yannick Mettler as well on the outside. Rhys Barr has lost quite a considerable number of places and is dropping down the field. Was literally swarmed heading out of turn 1 and turn 2 as we rode on board with Lewis Proctor heading out of the Roggia.
Yeah, Rhys Barr was practically on the grass braking for the Della Roggia chicane there. This is on board with Lewis Proctor going through the Lesmos, and he has lost a couple of places in that Pro-Am fight as well. Got a real mix of the different classes now, having most of them been line astern. turn. This is the number 19 Oregon Lamborghini, Pietro Perolini, put it in the wall in the latter stages of the race yesterday, but he's got away cleanly by the looks of it. And Chauvet starting to build a nice margin here, 1.1 seconds ahead as they go through the second sector of Charlie Fagg, and Christopher Halser well in striking distance as we come to the end of the first lap. It's David Fuminelli who's been a man on a move, really. Not only has he taken the lead in the Pro-Am standings, he's got up to 4th overall as well. Pavlovic, who was on Pro-Am pause, had a shocker. He's down in 13th.
Yeah, a lot of swapping as well going on behind Pietro Pirolini. He's got the Baron Motorsport car right behind him here at this point. Pietro Pirolini has got to try and fight in this opening stint to try and bring himself as close as he can. Hasn't been inflicted with the handicaps. Obviously, they're not going to be sustaining that during the driver change phase, so that gives them a great opportunity to perhaps take advantage and rise up the order. But now we've got them all coming together. Charlie Fagg just covering off the inside slightly against the East Talent car, driven by Christopher Halser, who we all know is a stern competitor and vastly experienced. But we've also got David Fuminelli as well, who has won under the GT Sport organisation in the Euro Formula Open Championship at this very circuit, and he's going to be utilising all those expertise here once again. 4th place in the Ferrari, Reese Barr in 5th, Mettler in 6th, who has had an almighty start here for the SPS Automotive Performance Mercedes. Enter now the motor park, further back, Diego Menchaca looking to try and move his way through, manages to dodge. Certainly now the Get Speed orange car takes certainly umbrage against that and moves back ahead. A flash of the lights there from Menchaca. He didn't appreciate it.
Yeah, had to let him back through because he cut the corner and they're very close to making contact, and James Wallace gets a nice shove out wide at the first Lesmo. Pavlovic fancies a bit of that as well, up the inside. And once again, the orange Get Speed finds itself dipping into the gravel. Now it's going to be absolutely swarmed on the run towards Ascari.
Yeah, they are heading down the Seraglio straight now. There's Fagg, there's Halser, joined by Fuminelli. There you can see now Menchaca, who's managed to break away. Milos Pavlovic ahead of Konrad Grunwald as they come now. Late on the brakes from Pietro Pirolini, as now he, runs it very, very deep heading into Ascari. You just saw James Wallace there cutting off to the inside as well. He's also looking to try and defend the place of 15th position. Pirolini just positioned behind him here. Lewis Proctor also losing out. Pirolini trying to make it 3 wide, now nearly 2 wide.
At the front of that shot there, look how close Christopher Haas has gone to the back of Charlie Fagg, who has already dropped 2.3 seconds to race leader Chauvet. I imagine Chris Haas is going to be thinking, I need to clear this McLaren and I need to do it quickly if I'm going to have any chance of getting after that Lamborghini that has a 20-second handicap to serve. Don't forget, of course, the East Talent Audi not totally unhandicapped after finishing second yesterday as well, but certainly a significantly smaller handicap they'll have to take when he hands over to Simon Riker. Plenty of squabbling going into this first chicane here as we're on board with Marco Polcini, looking at the back of one of the other Ferraris, the 488, although Polcini running the new 296, and that is Murat Chirodaroglu in the Kessel Ferrari. Not a very happy 60th there. He's in the gravel.
Yeah, painful safety car has been deployed, and that means now, and certainly I was about to discuss that Chauvet does not want the safety car. No. This is the last thing he needs, because remember, he has 20 seconds of handicap to serve during the pit stop phase. He needed to tank away early on, break away from Charlie Fagg and Christopher Haase, but every little bit of time he's earned here, 3.1 seconds up to the point of the safety car, that's all going to dissipate now because we're under full course yellow conditions.
I'm just trying to see where Chirodaroglu's ended up. Can't see it on the track map. This is a replay of the start. So we were 3 wide for second place pretty early on. Chauvet was leading them up to the line very, very slowly indeed, but Fagg just nailed the start and pulled out almost immediately behind Reese Barr, right around the outside, not only of the Mercedes, but the Audi 2. And that looked like one of the Kessel cars having to take to the escape road off the line. This is the start from Lewis Proctor's perspective. We see the Motor Park Mercedes there, and look at that, it's been swarmed already. The Get Speed Am entered car getting up past it, and look at that, the Motor Park car, which I believe is Menchaca, pretty much getting on the grass, and oh, look at that, Proctor was squeezed in the braking zone by Perolini there. There was a little nudge from sort of front bumper to rear bumper. And this is a little miscommunique here between two of the Mercedes. The Get Speed car got ahead by cutting the corner, Menchaca wanted to get that place back right away, and Wallace didn't feel like giving it up.
No, he certainly didn't. And of course, we spoke about James Wallace's stern defending. We had it yesterday. Of course, he was defending against Pietro Pirolini, who unfortunately would end up into the barrier, and those two are going to meet again. This is the moment where Murat Charanoglu went off at Ascari, just on the outset, heading down the main straight before the Kerber Alboreto. Here it is from another angle, and he could be quite thankful. This is the brilliance of gravel. Of course, the car only just barely touching the barrier on the side, so shouldn't be too much damage there, but at the same time, less than ideal for Murat Charanoglu.
Yeah, so he's gone off way before the part of the corner he actually ended up at, so I assume he's gone off at the first part of that and then lost the car coming back on. So let's take ground here while we're under safety car conditions. Pierre-Louis Chauvet leads Charlie Fagg. That gap was over 2 seconds. Of course, that has been erased. Christopher Haase in third place. He's net position is the same. He's lost one and gained one. Fuminelli in fourth place for the Kessel Ferrari, leads the Pro-Am standings in fourth. Reese Barr, having started on the front row of the grid, dropped down to fifth. Yannick Mettler up to sixth as well, ahead of Agostini, Red Bull Ring race winner this time 2 weeks ago. Steve Jans, yesterday's Pro-Am winner, in eighth. And then the AM lead, that looks very different now indeed, because Adam Osaka in his own team, the Get Speed Mercedes, in ninth overall, ahead of Giorgio Serna-Ghiotto. Now that Get Speed Mercedes didn't finish yesterday's race, and Adam was rightfully upset about that, despite the success of the other cars in his team, one on the overall podium, one taking the Pro-Am win. He'll be handing that car over to Kiki Saknana a little bit later on. But Serna-Ghiotto in the top 10. Diego Menchaca hasn't had much forward progress so far. He's only made up one place in 11th, while his nearest title rivals are 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, at this point now, Chauvet has got to try and reset himself. Going back to Adam Osaka, of course, remember they had to serve 10 seconds for yesterday's race after the successes at Red Bull Ring. But this occasion, they don't have to worry about that so much. No success penalty this time heading into this race too, as now you can see Murat Charanoglu's car being lifted away by the crane and marshalling team, being put to work and doing a stellar job as always, managing circumstances here at this point. They don't have to worry too much about the rain this time, because the sun is beaming down as we now ride on board once again and make our way down this long straight and look forward to the race restart.
Yes, so much better conditions than yesterday. Track temperature of 31 degrees, but yesterday Motor Park feel like they missed out on an opportunity to take a big march in the championship, because my understanding of it is they got the tyres between their two cars mixed up. That's Charanoglu getting back out on track now, so he's been able to rejoin. But yes, my understanding of it is they wanted the AM car of Rumpfkal and Neumann to go onto the wets and for Menchaca to head out on slicks, but they somehow mixed the tyre compounds up, and turned out being on the wet tyre was not the correct decision really ultimately, and that's why they only finished 9th and only taking 1 point out of Fagg and De Haan's lead. But
it truly varied, though, in terms of the tyre compounds. And as such, certain drivers, it worked better to be on the wet tyres, and certain drivers that did commit to the wets did manage to come out fairly strongly.
Well, Wallace was third on wet.
Precisely. So he definitely fitted that compound, and certainly it matched the way he was driving out on track. He was able to put the shields up, and whereas he was so defensive, obviously Pietro Pirolini, for example, on that slick tyre was far more aggressive. Therefore, it was certainly the abilities of Wallace to control the car, utilising the tyres and the extra grip he had in the apexes, whereas Pietro Pirolini sort of suffered in that aspect, but he had the better straight line speed, which made the difference.
Well, the tyre pressures as well was making a big difference as well. You know, why some cars on wets weren't able to make it work so much. Not 100% certain if that was the case with Motor Park, but certainly some teams said they got the pressures wrong, and so they ended up either burning them out, or they couldn't. They got the performance in too late in the race to really utilise them. So a number of factors really that ended up giving us the result in what was a very dramatic and chaotic race yesterday with the rain arriving. No such problems with that today, because we've had beautiful clear skies all day long. It's about the best weather that Monza has had for about a week, because it hasn't stopped raining pretty much since, well, certainly since we arrived.
No, we had it right through practice. Obviously, it was intermittent in practice. Time certainly did vary from FP1 to FP3. When the rain would come down, we'd have a break. We then have a little bit of sunshine. We had a relatively warm start to the Saturday yesterday, and we all thought that perhaps we would have dry weather right through into the latter part of the day. But unfortunately, then the rain came down. Safety car now confirmed to be coming in this lap, folks, as you can see. So Chauvet is going to be essentially the pace car that'll take us through towards the curve at Alboreto. In behind as well, Charlie Fagg is going to be watching everything unfold. Christopher Haas, you can just see that race bar as well, looking for some vision on the inside heading through. Obviously wants to give himself as better run as possible, with Steve Jans and Agostini also lined up just in behind, who are looking to try and jump in on the action.
Yeah, now Haas was lining up a move on Fagg before the safety car came out. Will he use this as his opportunity to try and clear the McLaren and his title rival in front of him? Chauvet puts his foot to the floor, and we are back green again at Monza for race 2 in round 6 of the International GTOpen in 2023. Chauvet leads them over the line. Fagg taking up that slipstream as well. We've got one car in the barrier already, and that looks like the Adamo Seika Gatsby Mercedes, the blue one that has had an off. And then we saw it shake the camera. I can only assume it made it to the barriers. And look at Reece Parr trying to get around the outside here of Fuminelli for 4th place, trying to take that spot back again as the Motorpark car has to go across the chicane there. This is on board with Yannick Medler. He's got a clear view of the battle in front of him, and that's Fuminelli ahead of him, and that means that Reece Parr made that move stick.
Yeah, Yannick Medler now is going to switch to the inside, heading through Curva Grande, and he's going to try and utilise certainly the better sort of entrance he's going to have heading in towards the Rogier, but the inside line for Fuminelli is going to cover it off, and in behind you've got Agostini, who is looking to try and launch himself further too, but Medler managing, though, to hold back the tirade. But look what's going on in behind. You can just see there side by side through Lesmo 1, Medler with at the mercy here of Riccardo Agostini, who now moves his way through, and he's not alone, because enter as well Steve Jans, who is also looking to position his Mercedes against the other Mercedes. It's SPS versus Get Speed.
It was a beautiful move by Agostini at the inside of the first Lesmo. Got a beautiful run out of Della Rogia, and now Agostini fancies a run at Fuminelli as well. It's Kessel versus AF Corsa Ferrari, two legendary Ferrari teams that have had great success in the highest levels of GT racing, and of course AF Corsa taking that one step further and running their prototype cars in the World Endurance Championship as well. And now this is what happened to Adamo Seika. Got a bit of a wiggle on in the Parabolica, jammed on the anchors, skipping through the gravel, and I think he does nudge that barrier, because we saw it shake the camera. So this is Medler's perspective of the pass from Agostini we're going to see here. So he's looking at Fuminelli and getting caught up a little bit behind them, and that just gives Agostini the run on the inside, and didn't leave him much room, but just about left him enough, I think.
Yeah, might have been the cameraman ducking and covering. I think obviously the stone chips and the gravel might have flown some distance. But coming through the first chicane at Loretta Filio, green flag conditions, and in amongst a blue sky with the sun beaming down, you can see the glare on top of each and every single car round in the Curva Grande right now here on what can only be described as a mesmeric penultimate round here at Monza. Race 2 certainly giving us something to look at. Chauvet now starting to stretch again, 1.7 out in front of Charlie Fagg, doing exactly what he did at the very start of this race, with Christopher Haas still 0.8 of a second in behind, again kicking up the gravel this time, as we saw Wallace now stretching through. But we're riding on board here with Lewis Proctor, who has got Wallace in full view.
Yeah, this is about a 13th spot there. Wallace ahead of us in the orange Get Speed Mercedes. Fantastic debut for him yesterday. Very much a big welcome into the GTOpen championship with such a complicated race, and for somebody who's only just started his GT3 racing career, started the season in GT4 in the British GT, then moved up to GT3, now joining us in the GTOpen as well. And look at this, Chauvet already rebuilding that advantage he had before the safety car. It was 1.9 seconds when they entered Ascari at the end of the second sector. Haasa not looking quite as feisty behind Fagg as he was a few laps ago.
No, not at all. He has dropped just a little bit slightly, but we did allude to the fact that this isn't necessarily the strongest track for the Audi R8 LMS. East Talent know that, so to claim any result they can would be a great weekend for them. As we said, after yesterday's result, only 5 points behind that of Fag and Menchaca, and of course Sam Dehan representing that of the Optimum Motorsport McLaren alongside that of Charlie Fag. They're only 5 points away from being in the mix, or certainly level points with that of the McLaren team and the Mercedes of Diego Menchaca. Fastest lap for Pierre-Louis Chauvet, once again, still continuing to stretch his advantage. It's now out to 2.3 seconds, as opposed to the 1.3 we saw not too long ago. 7 laps in, Chauvet is on a mission. Charlie Fag still trying to rein in the gap. Haase losing around a 10th since we last saw it. Remember, it was 8 tenths before, it's 9 tenths now, and Reece Barr is looking more like the threat this time.
Certainly is. They're closing in on that battle for third place. Oh, no. This is heartbreaking for Nick Moss and Joe Osborne. It looks like they had some turbo trouble with that car during Friday testing and indeed yesterday's qualifying as well. Potentially those issues have reared their heads again. But it doesn't look like they are going to be heading much farther into this race, sadly.
Yeah, heartbreak, unfortunately, for our runners-up in last season's championship. They brought it to Oregon, remember, all the way back in Barcelona when both cars came into the pits to utilise their driver changes because of the handicap that was fed to Leonardo Polcini and Ben Jahites during that scuffle. It was Joe Osborne who exited out of the pit lane first and really put his foot down in trying to capture the title for the Optimum Motorsport team and for both himself and Nick Moss as well. Unfortunately, Leonardo Polcini for them certainly gave enough in order to grant Oregon that championship, and now they're back here trying to defend it this season as well. But currently good value for it, as now Chauvet once again stretching back into the 3.1 second mark that he had before the safety car. He's got it back again and still trying to career away from Charlie Fag, who has now got Haase back for company because he's now brought it to within 6 tenths.
And that AM lead, by the way, that moment for Adamo's sake, of course, gives Giorgio Sonny Giotto, the AM lead. Oh, look at this side-by-side. James Wallace here getting very close with Conrad Grunwald and has to hop and skip over the curbs in the runoff area at the first chicane. Looked like a bit of bodywork just came off his car as well. Off the front right there, can see something flapping away. So it's been an even more tumultuous opening stint for Wallace than certainly what he had in yesterday's race.
Yeah, and only having minimal experience behind the wheel of the GT3. Remember, GT Cup UK driver who took 3 wins in that championship, finished P3 in that title run as well. Great to have him here as part of the fixture here in the International GTOpen, making up a double driver, 17-year-old combination. Of course, not forgetting Aaron Walker, the same age as James Wallace, and now heading down the Seraglio straight. Look at Lewis Proctor as well on the tail and hunting down Conrad Grunwald. Grunwald himself only a 10th of a second in behind James Wallace. We got an almighty scrap between 3 cars. They're in different classes. We've got a pro car, that being Wallace. We've got certainly Grunwald, who represents the AM, and the Proctors, who represent the Pro-Am contingent in this fight as well. 42 minutes still to go, and we're only 5 minutes away right now from the driver change window.
Yeah, if you're new to International GTOpen, all GT3 cars, but we have 3 different driver classes, Pro, Pro-Am and AM. That is, of course, based on the driver FIA grading that they are given. You can tell them apart. It's the red background number for Pro, blue for Pro-Am and green for AM. And this is Chauvet's advantage now, 4.4 seconds. He took 1.3 out of Fag on the last lap. There is no stopping that Oregon Lamborghini at the moment, and this is exactly why we cannot count them out of the title fight just yet, because they keep doing sensational races. What was not so sensational there was Lewis Proctor in the first corner. No,
made a little mistake. I think outbroke himself slightly and is now going to have to forego the position back to Conrad Grunwald, who does sweep through down the inside at Curva Grande. Of course, I will give Proctor a chance to fight another day. Fastest lap again for Pierre-Louis Chauvet, who continues to try and drum up the delta. Again, another look from Lewis Proctor, this time into the Rogier. Pietro Pirolini not too far behind, who has been working hard to try and gain the places. He's up to 15th place now, and don't forget, he doesn't have a handicap to serve. Chauvet, though, out in front. Here is the replay of the moment where Lewis Proctor just ran wide. Definitely outbraked himself.
Yeah, it certainly looks that way, doesn't it? And having to take to the grass rather than bouncing over the curbs.
Oh, yes.
Oh, very nearly got into the back of James Wallace's Get Speed Mercedes as well, but luckily was able to avoid it. Here's our race leader. still stretching his legs out at the front of the field, and he needs to do that because he has that 20-second handicap to take. When he hands over the car to Maximilian Paul during the driver change, traditionally they've run Chauvet longer in the stints that he does, so I can see them taking it right down to the wire in terms of the driver change window, which opens in about 3 minutes time. And I could see Charlie Fagg and Christopher Haase doing the same thing here. We've got a super intense battle for second place. Meanwhile, Reece Barr is not out of that as well, and something flapping on the front of that SPS Mercedes as well. I thought we saw
the front bonnet.
Something similar happened yesterday with one of the other Mercedes cars. Obviously, it's a big old front straight here. They get up to speeds of about 280 kilometers an hour, particularly in the slipstream. And it seems like just unsettling the front bodywork a little bit there, but as long as everything stays attached, we won't have a problem as Fagg leads them in. Now, look at this. Car 6 must give the position back to car 61, so that's James Wallace. Has to give 12th place back to Conrad Grunwald, because he cut turns 1 and 2 there, and I think that was the moment we saw a few moments ago.
Going back to Heiko Neumann as well, of course, remember we saw that illustrious purple first sector. He's done it again in Sector 1 as well, 33.637 in the first sector, so a golf clap there for Heiko Neumann. Great display so far. Currently sits as well in 20th place, and in that AMP contest, as we take a look at the East Talent Audi Garage, some conversations being had. They're in a great place here at this point as well. Third place isn't bad, and they were just happy to gain whatever they could get out of Monza. Like I said before, this track doesn't suit the Audi R8 LMS, at least from their standpoint, so they want to try and gather as much as they can, because going into Barcelona, which they identify as their perfect track, obviously that gives them a good run-up towards the Great Championship finale, and now pressing the back of Charlie Fagg's McLaren.
Yeah, so we saw Simon Riker in the background of that garage shot as well, just getting ready to get aboard the number 23 East Talent Audi that still sits in 3rd place behind Charlie Fagg here. And of course he'll hand over to Sam Dehaan in the latter half of the race.
Chauvet's out to 6.6 now.
Unbelievable.
I mean, he's on a mission at this point, and credit to him too, because he needs to, and he knows that the first stint is vital for the Lamborghini team, and I tell you what, another safety car would certainly ruin their day, so they're going to be hoping and praying that that does not happen. Chauvet, though, while he's doing this first stint, you've also got to give credit as well to Max Paul, who has certainly been one of the most prosaic risers in this championship, has developed time after time, has proven that he is a winner also in DTM, and coming in here to the International GTOpen after that hellacious race win back at Hungaroring, which we'll look back fondly from time to time as Charlie Fagg dips into the gravel coming out of the Roggia. Yeah,
Charlie Fagg absolutely pushing the limits of that McLaren 720S at the moment. And now one thing we know about this McLaren is it tends to suffer higher tyre wear than its competitors. I wonder if that is starting to rear its ugly head at this point. A little moment there through the gravel, and that's going to get spread across the circuit.
I thought Christopher Haase was going to follow him in there for a sec.
Yeah.
It did look that way, and Reece Barr probably would have joined them too. So you don't want to stay in there too long, chaps. I mean, at the end of the day, that helps out Pierre-Louis Chauvet again. He's just brought it out to 7.6 now. So he is absolutely flying. He could break into the 10-second mark before his driver change.
Of course, but then we'll have another 10 seconds to have to make up once the handicaps have been served. Now, I understand that James Wallace did give that place back to Conrad Grunwald, but has since repassed him, and Haase is looking very racy here indeed. Now, an interesting battle here developing between the McLaren powered by a 4-litre twin-turbo V8 against the naturally aspirated 5.2-litre V10 in the Audi, but it's the V8 Mercedes, actually, that looks like the aggressor at the moment as he's gone to the outside of the first corner. Reece Barr getting up alongside Christopher Haase here, almost having his nose chopped off through the left-hander, and that was a very close moment indeed.
Yeah, Pietro Pirolini's just come into the box. The driver change has actually commenced, so he will come in and change drivers. In will come and step in Dan Arrow, who has been brilliant over the last couple of rounds, very, very fast-paced, so a very smart decision. Reece Barr now looking to try and get in close, was under pressure a little bit from David Fuminelli and Agostini coming through the Della Roggia, but take a look at this now. Charlie Fagg has got some breathing room thanks to Reece Barr heading through the first sector.
Yeah, Restart doing Charlie Fagg plenty of favours there, because it's taken Christopher Haase off his back and given him, as you say, just a little bit of breathing space as they head down towards... no, Çağrı again involved in a scrap here, and that's the Street Art Aston Martin of Jahid Faisal Karim. That looks like the first chicane, unfortunately, where they look to be stuck. Now,
Nightmare.
George, that could be a safety car.
It could be.
And that would kill Chauvet and Paul at this point, and their advantage.
It could do, and all the hard work they've put in. He is 8.5 seconds out in front. We're waiting to see whether, I mean, he could still come in the pits. If he was to do the driver change, he might be ample to do it now. Obviously, we're not under safety car ruling at this point. Yellow flag still at turn 1. Yes. No safety car called yet by the race director.
So Çağrı just getting into the rear left corner there of Jahid Faisal Karim at the first turn. And they're coming up to that section of track now. But still no sign of a safety car just yet. But in comes Christopher Haase and Rhys Barr. I wonder if they're anticipating a safety car call here.
They could well be, and I did utter that maybe that would suit Pierre-Louis Chauvet to come in as well. But from our timing screen, our view on that, they haven't come in. So it's Charlie Fagg still in second. Fuminelli now takes up third. Agostini as well coming in. Pitamba now is going to jump into the car instead of Rhys Barr. Simon Riker steps up. Axel Blom also stepping up for Steve Jans. We have got the Proctors switching up with Stewart now taking the seat. Ernst Kirkmeyer as well jumps in. Timo Rumpkeil also steps instead of Heiko Neumann. And Adamo Seika now moves up into the top 10, 10th place, and he will step in. Andrea Montemini also in. Nicolo Schiro steps in for Nicolo Rossi, who took the opening stint this time around, because Schiro did the opening stint last time around, as we now rejoin Pietro Pirolini, who of course was in the pits earlier on for his driver change. It is now, well, it's going to be Dan Arrow at the wheel of that car now.
Yeah, so Thomas Neubauer now aboard the Motorpark Mercedes behind him as well. So Çağrı here has gotten away. I believe it is just the Street Art Aston that's still stricken at the first corner there, because we've still got yellow flags there. So they might just cover this one off under the single or double wave yellows.
Right now.
Great news. Maybe not so much for Riker and Pitamba. They were gambling on maybe a safety car call potentially. Now, did that look like Chauvet was coming into the pits?
No, he's coming down the straight now. I'm having a look. No, I think you're absolutely right. I can't see him coming down. No.
Well, we'll see if he can.
There
yes,
he is.
He's just come past us in the commentary box. And so the drivers having to take to the escape road at turns 1 and 2.
The Street Art is still there, so it's still a smart call, because the safety car could still come out. So Maximilian Paul's going to step instead of Pierre-Louis Chauvet, and they're going to now serve a 20-second handicap period, as now we take a look at the red zebra, which will see Sam Nahan step into the car.
Yep, so top 2 in, and now we'll see where they come out relative to Simon Riker. Of course, that car had only 5 seconds of handicap to take because they finished second yesterday. Now, this battle between Kessel and AF Corsa still raging on here because we've got Agostini, who's now in second place, up ahead of Fuminelli. So this is for currently the race lead. That is the Street Art Aston Martin that has now been cleared at turn 1. We have green flags waving all around the circuit, but just a white flag to warn of the slow-moving car there. Aaron Walker about to get on board the number 6 Getspeed Mercedes. But that battle that we were seeing just there is currently for the race lead between Fuminelli and Agostini. Now, yes, and look at this, because of the handicaps, Rhys Barr's come out ahead of, not Rhys Barr, Mikhail Pitamba, sorry, having just got on board that car, has come out ahead of Riker. So depending on now that's the Lamborghini just leaving the pits. We can see it on the right of picture here.
Yeah.
So this is for the net race lead.
This is key.
Depending on where Maximilian Paul comes out here, it could be Mikhail Pitamba who takes the lead of the race, and he does indeed. And Riker goes through into second place as well. And Maximilian Paul is only just going to come out ahead of his teammate Dan Arrow.
Yeah, Dan Arrow now in that pit stop phase. Oregon have pulled a worldie, I would say, at this stage now, because they brought the sister Oregon Lamborghini into the mix for the net race lead fight. Obviously, at this point, heading through now the Curva Grande.
Could be Dehaan actually ahead.
Yeah, he's already stopped.
Yes,
He's out in 8th. Yes, so that's it. Sam Dehaan and Charlie Fagg, who swapped out after his initial stint. It's the Red Zebra who has the net race lead here at the 30th and half minute here at this point here at Monza. Still to go. Pitamba now 9th, and in behind him, Simon Riker. So there is a fleet of championship contenders here. Dehaan, Riker. You've got also Maximilian Paul. Those three that led at the very start, fighting it out on the initial stint. They're now back out again.
And Thomas Neubauer is significantly closer to his title rivals now. Of course, that car only had 5 seconds to take in the handicap as well. And now, wow, look at this. We've got a gaggle of cars heading towards turn 1. And oh dear, Cipriani has been pushed off at turn 1 and made it into the barriers. And oh yes, it did look like a close call there. But now we have yellow flags again at turn 1 here. The Street Art Aston has made it back to the pits. We've still got just under 5 minutes left on the driver change window. So Fuminelli, Agostini, Mettler, Sernegiotto, Pavlovic, Grunewald and Adamo Seika yet to stop. That's the top 7. But Sam Dehaan with the net race lead now ahead of Mikel Pitamba by some 3 seconds now. Or 2.5 seconds, actually. It just came down in that final sector there. But ignoring the Ferrari at the front of this field, that is the order, we think, when the pit stops shake out.
Yeah, it certainly will be. Sam Dehaan, who's obviously already made his stop. The 7 cars that sit in front of him all still have to box. And now it's just a case that Sam Dehaan needs to bring it home. A very similar picture to what he has faced in the past. Remember back at Hungaroring, where it was ripped away from him. If you remember the collision between himself and Marin Angeli, of course, that would serve up a picture, obviously, for the rest of the championship. They since fought back and took some big results on their way to becoming contenders for this championship once again this season. In comes Yannick Mettler, who will be swapping out for Dexter Muller, who's going to be taking the seat. And just see there, Dexter just loosening the belts, and out jumps Yannick Mettler. In goes Dexter Muller now. We have Giorgio Sernegiotto. In comes Alessandro Cosi into the blue AF Corsa Ferrari 296. That'll soon be venturing back out onto the circuit at its home circuit here at the Italian track of Monza.
Yep, Adamo Seika in there as well, handing over to Kiki Sagnana. So top 4 yet to pit. 3 minutes left on the driver change window. This is that driver change for Sagnana and Osaka. Hoping to get ahead in the AM classification. Now look at this, Mikel Pitamba is closing in on Sam Dehaan here. The gap was 2.5 seconds at the start of the lap. It's now 1.5 seconds. Mikel Pitamba is eating into Sam Dehaan's net race lead here. Simon Riker there in what is a net 3rd, being closed in on by Maximilian Paul as well. So plenty of places still to shake out here in the remaining 27 minutes.
Purple hair dye not required here at this point for Mikel Pitamba. Take a look at this, though. We have a big fight brewing here further down. Max Paul right behind Simon Riker here, heading down towards turn 1. You can see the East Talent Audi slightly defensive, taking helm in the middle of the track. There we can see them now heading in towards turn 1 as they venture through, as now the cars start jumping ahead of those that have just boxed. Riker now 8th, Muller now out in 7th. He's managed to jump. Yannick Mettler's initial stint has been phenomenal. He's managed to come out ahead of Riker, Paul and Arrow and Neubauer. Great first stint for Yannick Mettler.
Yeah, so that's put Dexter Miller a net 3rd. And look at this, Pitamba's now right on the back of Sam Dehaan here, and closing in on the back of that McLaren. They've got traffic in front of them as well in the form of Murat Çuraroğlu, but they should have pretty clear track ahead of them once they clear that car. This is Fuminelli who's come in, Frederic Jousset jumping on board the number 11 Kessel Ferrari 296. Samporn Javanil taking over from Milos Pavlovic as well, and Jean-Claude Sarda taking over from Konrad Grunewald. So the only car left is Riccardo Agostini in the AF Corsa Ferrari number 51 with 1.5 minutes left on the driver change window. So I imagine they'll be in this lap.
Yeah, they certainly will be. And once again, Sam Dehaan under some convincing pressure. Mikel Pitamba looking well versed here, coming through the Ascari chicane, aggressive over the curbs, committing to the cause as well. You can see in the background Dexter Muller, who's got his own fight on his hands because Simon Riker is hot on his tail. A flash of the lights here from Mikel Pitamba, who looks down the inside, heading in towards Kerber Alboreto. Still can't find a way through. Simon Riker, though, might find a way through on Dexter Muller. The East Talent Audi, as well as Maximilian Paul. They go up together, they rise above it, and And now up to 7th goes Simon Riker, with 8th falling to Maximilian Paul.
But this is crucial for Muller because Jusey and João Javanil are about to come out of the pits. That's for the Pro-Am lead, which is the one Muller's going to care about. And look at that, Jusey is well clear, very nearly actually taking the lead there. But he's let the leaders go and taking it very cautiously into the yellow flag zone. Of course, Pitamba couldn't make the pass into the first corner there because we've still got Giuseppe Cipriani's stricken Lamborghini from Il Baron Rampante there at the side of the road. 25 minutes remaining in this race, and Yannick Mettler there sitting second amongst the Pro-Am runners. Here's the final driver change. Marin Angeli getting on board the 51 AF Corsa Ferrari. Now, this is going to be really interesting. Where are they going to come out? Because they, of course, were unhandicapped as Traoroglu gets out of the way of the leaders. Driver change is officially closed, and still Dexter Muller having to contend with the running back, and that is Frederick Jusey in the Kessel Ferrari that's gone off at Lesmo 1. Spit gravel all over the racetrack, and dear, another incident here at the Della Roggia. Aaron Walker, as you pointed out, some damage on the front right corner there. So we've got 3 separate incidents now happening all across the track.
Yellow's confirmed at turn 1 and 2, I think, not just at turn 1.
Turns 1 to 6. And now Giorgio...
that's Alessandro Cosi.
Cosi in the 25, and with big damage on the right rear corner there in the same part of the track as Aaron Walker, so I dare say they may have come to blows here. But suddenly, a very dramatic turn of events in the last minute or so. Safety car is on standby. I fear we may need it, and that's going to change the complexion of this race entirely, because Marin Angeli is now on his outlap. He has come out well clear of this battle. There he is, just at the top of the picture. He's well ahead of this battle. Marin Angeli has got the lead of this race now. So suddenly, this is an entirely different race, as Pitamba still looking for a way past the hand for what is now 2nd place. But he can't do it into the first corner, and still Maximilian Paul looking at the back of Simon Riker.
And the safety car's on standby. Race control have got it on standby. Still no confirmation that it's come out just yet. We will hear about it very, very shortly. So we're still under green conditions until the race directors say, yes, we're going to run safety car. But still there's still in a moment we will find out. We've still got the battles brewing. This is the moment. So you've got Alessandro... Whoa! Goodness me, he just missed it, I think, altogether. Alessandro Cosi just missing the breaking point into the Roggia altogether and collecting Aaron Walker as a result. You can see the extensive damage. This is the moment where Frederick Jusey spins it through the first Lesmo and does the work that David Fuminelli has put in order for that Pro-Am advantage. Yannick Mettler and Dexter Muller are going to be delighted, because obviously it means that they get promoted to the Pro-Am lead. Yes,
but not by much, because they're only 6 seconds ahead of Sampon João Javanil, who's 5 seconds ahead of Eddie Chiva. They're all line astern in terms of the timings at the moment. Poor Aaron Walker there, absolutely wiped out by the Air Corsa Ferrari. Completely innocent bystander in all of that. Look at the advantage. Safety car has been deployed. I was about to say, Marin Angeli's got a 7-second advantage over Sam Dahan. Not anymore, he doesn't. And look at that. Is that Jusey needing some assistance there, perhaps?
Yeah, he looks well and truly embedded in that gravel trap. And without a doubt, the safety car definitely required for that little moment there heading through the Lesmo. So that's going to bring the advantage that Riccardo Agostini brought together from Nicola Marin Angeli to a thuddering halt. It's going to come clashing down now. 7.3 seconds soon will be effectively nothing, as Sam Dahan is going to be all over his rear, and a chance here for the Optimum Motorsport McLaren to come back fighting here. Remember, these two came together back at Hungaroring. Chapter 2, anyone?
Yes. They've come to blows before. Let's put it that way. Last lap at Hungaroring is seared into everyone's memories here in the GT Sport paddock. So, wow.
And it was Max Paul who took the win on that occasion,
yes,
too.
It was. So, 21 minutes remaining. Here's the replay again of the 25 getting into Aaron Walker. Yeah, completely innocent there, ripping the front left corner off his car. But 21 minutes remaining. And look at that, you see what, that's what Eddie Chiva thought of the situation in front of him as well. So driver change window is of course finished. we're seeing here the reasons why we're on safety car at the moment. Multitude of incidents across the track in a very short space of time. Niccolo Marinangeli leads for AF Corsa Ferrari ahead of our championship leader, Sam de Haan. Mikel Pitamba in the SBS Automotive Mercedes is in third. Simon Riker, third in the championship, is in fourth, ahead of Maximilian Paul. That car was started on pole position and leading the early stages of this race, ahead of his teammate Dan Arrow. Thomas Neubauer now right in this fight in 7th place, and now on the back of the cars in front of him as well. And of course, Neubauer sharing the car with Diego Menchaca, who's tied on points with Sam de Haan and Charlie Fagg. Pro-Am is led by Dexter Muller in the car barn by SBS Mercedes. That was Yannick Mettler driving that car at the start of the race, ahead of Sampon João Jovenil in the Bonaldi Lamborghini, then Eddie Cheever and Axel Blom, yesterday's Pro-Am race winner. Behind them, we've got the lead battle in the AM category. Jean-Claude Sada in the 61A, of course, Ferrari, ahead of the AM Motorpark Mercedes of Timo Rumpfkeil. It's all changed, George.
It is all changed. 10 minutes. I tell you what now, the complexion is certainly looking positive for Oregon. They've got 2 cars now, again, in the top 6. Dan Arrow is now in the mix. Thomas Neubauer is still in the mix of all this as well. You've got to look at Mikel Pitamba, who's been really, really quick since he started his stint. Simon Riker right in between it all in the Audi R8 LMS as well. So there's lots of movers and shakers. Eddie Cheever has a great chance as well of taking the Pro-Am lead. Of course, we know how quick he is, and has certainly shown that he could even contend with the best of those in the Pro category as well. Has got form as well in terms of winning in GT World Challenge, has taken a title in his own right. Alessandro Cosi, no doubt despondent here in a home race weekend for himself and for the Ferrari team. This is less than ideal. Frederick Usay's car also getting lifted out of the gravel trap as they look to clean out the wheel rims. But I tell you what, going back, remember it was Marinangeli who won after the safety car back at Red Bull Ring. We've got the same scenario yet again, only this time he has got a familiar face of Sam de Haan now, who's going to be barring down upon him, as well as Pitamba, not forgetting the 2 Oregon cars as well in behind, mixed up with an Audi R8 LMS belonging to East Talent. This is a thrilling encounter as you say gets away. Yeah,
so the only difference there was it was Agostini in the car in the second half of the race when they won at Red Bull Ring. This time it's Marinangeli, who has shown time and time again this season that he's not afraid to get his elbows out in wheel-to-wheel combat. And I'm sure that Sam de Haan, particularly after their encounter at the Hungaroring, will be treating the back of that Ferrari 296 like the hind legs of a donkey.
And we hear in the Oregon camp as well as Pier Giorgio Testa has some words to say as well. Everyone watching on the Oregon Lamborghini camp, remember, of course, it was both celebration and hardship as well. Pietro Pirolini unfortunately coming unstuck, but had a great first stint this time around that has given them a great chance at some big points here this afternoon, especially with Dan Arrow now currently sat in 6th in this classification. Of course, remember, he had that scary incident back at Red Bull Ring where, of course, he was upended onto his side, very nearly turning the car over altogether, but coming out of it unscathed, which was great to see. But with 17 minutes currently left on the market here, Chris, we've still got a scenario where the safety car's out. Team manager for car 25 to report to race control immediately.
That's Cosi, is it not?
I believe so, yes. Alessandro Cosi, who is effectively out of the race. He's already out of the car. They have been called to race control immediately. So we'll have to wait and see. That was obviously due to the big moment heading down towards the Rogers chicane where they missed it altogether and collected Aaron Walker.
Yeah, we just saw on the grid progression graphic there, Marinangeli up 9 places from where he started. Dan Arrow up, I think it was 11 as well. So some great forward progress being made. Of course, they no handicap kind of helping them out a little bit, but still some incredible performances. And
this is going to be an electrifying finale.
Absolutely sensational. We've got 7 of our A Pro cars line astern, with only Muracha Rodoroglu sort of separating Pitamba and Riker in the actual order there in terms of the timings there line astern. The only one we've lost is unfortunately Aaron Walker and Nick Moss. So got a big fight coming in the remaining 16 minutes of this race. No sign of the safety car coming in just yet. But when we do, it will be a big dash to the finish line. And for AF Corsa, of course, they're the team that has the most success in this championship, the most wins out of any other team, as we see Aaron Walker's Get Speed Mercedes getting lifted into the little escape road there at the Della Roggia. They added to that win tally, AF Corsa, last time out at Red Bull Ring. They could well do the same again today. But he's going to have Sam Dehaan and Mikael Pitamba, Simon Riker, Maximilian Paul, Dan Arrow and Thomas Neubauer breathing down their necks. So, of course, what this has done actually for the 63 crew is it's kind of negated their handicap a little bit, because it's put Maximilian Paul right to the back of his rivals.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, we know how good Maximilian Paul is. We speak about the progression charts of this team throughout the course of this season. It truly has been an astounding effort from both himself and also Pierre-Louis Chauvet, who has really grown into the series. Remember, accomplished in single-seaters. Pierre-Louis Chauvet competed in the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine last season, was a race winner for the RPM team in that championship too. But as they have certainly risen to the occasion, of course, taking a race win back at Hungaroring in that famous Maximilian Paul outside manoeuvre on the final lap around the final corner. Of course, P3 then in the race before that, race 1, and then took a race win in race 2 back at Paul Ricard, and then they took victory at Red Bull Ring in race 1, and they've since won again. Of course, in yesterday's races, we get confirmation the safety car coming in this lap, and what a complexion we have to deliver every single one of you. Marin Angeli in an AF Corsa Ferrari, leading at the home of the Tifosi. The Ferrari fans, I'm sure, will be delighted as the brand new 296 visits the front yet again.
I can't wait to see what's going to happen on this restart, George. We've got Ferrari leading McLaren, leading Mercedes, leading Audi, leading Lamborghini. It doesn't get much more competitive than what we've seen in the International GT Open. And all 4 of our title protagonists are in that top 7 at the moment. And eager eyes to see how this one is going to play out. We've only got 2 races remaining in the championship after this one, and we still cannot pick a title favourite before we go to Barcelona in a few weeks' time for the finale. In the meantime, we have 13 minutes left to decide who will win race 2 at Monza, round 6 of the International GT Open in 2023. When is the moment that Niccolò Marinangeli aboard the AF Corsa Ferrari 296 decides to put his foot down? I think that was the moment, and Sam Dehaan looks like he got caught out just a little bit there, because Pitamba is right on his tail as they head out onto the straight. Now we are green once again at Monza, and Marinangeli feeling the need to weave across, maybe generate a little bit of extra tyre temperature. The Tradaroglu Ferrari getting caught up here because he's a lap down. And look at this, Pitamba going to the outside, and the braking zone of the first corner. He's got him, he's into second place. Mikael Pitamba moves up to second, and look at this, Thomas Neubauer trying to get up on Maximilian Paul. Paul's pushed into the gravel, and 2 title contenders are coming to blows here at Monza.
They certainly are. They hit pedal to the metal for the 3rd time in this race now, and certainly it's looking like it's going to be suffrage here for Maximilian Paul, who now has Dexter Muller around his outside, the Pro-Am leader, looking for a piece of the action. East Talent Audi forming in behind that of the Sam Dehaan Optima Motorsport McLaren, that has since descended downwards, with Mikael Pitamba now taking helm in 2nd place, as then we see side by side again a kick up of the gravel further back as well. Thomas Neubauer on a mission right now has already dispatched that of Maximilian Paul, and he's also having a go this time at Simon Riker.
Yeah, so he managed to clear Dan Arrow and Maximilian Paul in 1 manoeuvre. So a sensational restart for Thomas Neubauer, up to 5th place, and now looking at the back of one of his nearest title rivals, Simon Riker, got to clear the Tradaroglu Ferrari in the meantime as well. And Pitamba has wasted no time getting after Marinangeli for the lead of this race. Less than 12 minutes remain, and Pitamba here could well be on a charge to take his and SPS Performance's first win of the season.
They skip through the Ascari chicane once again. Still cars in tandem. Once again, no Pitamba looking deadly. Hot on the heels now of Nicola Marinangeli, 0.6 of a second between them. You see the two Oregon cars now with Murat Charanoglu's Ferrari now in behind. We've got some side-by-sides here further back as well. Carol Bash loftying himself higher and higher as he looks to try and attack here. Sampon Zhao Vanil as well as Eddie Cheever further up. Axel Blom as well in the midst of all of this as they begin yet another lap. Max Paul now goes past Dan Arrow, his colleague, teammate, sister cars now swapping. Eddie Cheever now takes the Pro-Am lead here at this point as well as they deep dive in towards the Rettifilo chicane. And look how close Max Paul has got to the back of Thomas Neubauer. He's going to look for revenge through the first and second sectors.
Yeah, so Max Paul's cleared Dan Arrow, his teammate, top 4 in the championship. Line astern on track at the moment in 3rd through to 6th. Doesn't get any better than that as Pitamba still looking at the back of Marinangeli here. These top 2 not in the championship fight. All eyes are going to be on the battle for 3rd place as well. Not only to see how this race pans out in front of them. Here's the move again from Pitamba. Brilliant stuff. And then, yes, so Neubauer around the outside of Arrow, cleared him before they even got to the corner, and then kind of gets into the side of Maximilian Paul a little bit, but it was close, that's for sure.
Very close, rubbing shoulders, licking the paint off each other's cars, heading through turns 1 and 2. And Max Paul was forced to wait in behind. Here's the sky view, the wonderful drone shot we have here at the moment. Unfortunately, I don't think Max Paul will consider it wonderful, to be quite honest. Unfortunately, losing out. This is the view from Dan Arrow, who had to watch all this unfold and followed the line of Thomas Neubauer, which was a very sensible move because, of course, he was able to capitalise off the back of Max Paul. But look at Paul now, instantly looking to come back straight away at Neubauer. Could tee up a move here. This is the provisional standings, folks. 109 currently falling by the way of that of Optimum Motorsport with Diego Menchaca on 105, 102 for Haase and Riker with Marcos Seber now down to 97. Of course, he will not be partaking in the next 2 rounds. Drive through for car 88. That, of course, now that belongs to Andrea Montemini for causing a collision with car number 8.
Yeah, so that is Cipriani. So that's how Cipriani ended up in the barriers at the first corner. There was a car that went into the back of him. It must have been the Andrea Montemini car. And look at this, top 2 pulling away here. Thomas Neubauer looking for a move into 4th place on Simon Riker here. Wants the dispatch of Riker, I think, before Maximilian Paul has a chance to come back at him because of the 3, it looks like Max Paul has got the pace.
Yeah, he certainly does so. He's right on the tail of Thomas Neubauer. Neubauer doesn't want to be held too long behind Riker. Heading through Curva Grande yet again, a flash of the lights once again from Mikael Pitamba, who's leaving no stone unturned. He wants to give Nicola Marinangeli a few headaches now as we dive into the final 8 minutes and 40 left in this race. They go in tandem, and look at the exit there from Maximilian Paul. He had a great exit, had to look down the inside of Lesmo 1, decides against it, but just showing in the mirrors to let Neubauer know he's there.
Brilliant stuff. So we've got a intense battle for the lead, intense battle for 4th place as well. Sam Dehan starting to fall into his own little race here. A second clear of the battle behind him, 1.6 behind the battle in front of him as well. Pitamba taking another couple of tenths out of Marinangeli on this lap so far, but Marinangeli returning the serve in the middle sector, building that gap back out. Still, Thomas Neubauer is looking at the back of Simon Riker's Audi going into the Ascari chicane, and we said that Motorbike needed a big result here, and well, as does the East Talent Audi. Currently, they're both behind the championship leader, but it would still be super close. Only 7 points separating the top 3 if it were to remain as it is now. Somehow, George, I feel like that's not going to be the case.
No, I think it could be well and truly mixed up on this occasion. Heading through now, better line though. Look at Maximilian Paul already on the attack, this time on Thomas Neubauer. We speak about how consistent this Motor Park team have been. They have been brilliant, but now in the latter rounds that we have had here in this championship fight, Maximilian Paul and Pierre-Louis Chauvet have brought Oregon, dragged them into this championship fight. Into the Rettifilo chicane they go. Turns 1 and 2, the nose in front of the Oregon car. They cannon their way now, higher and higher. P5, they grasp it. Dan Arrow now in behind them. He's going to look to shoot for the stars this time too and follow the sister car into a potential P6 position.
And Neubauer now finds himself in an Oregon sandwich, and that's not going to be a comfortable place for him to be. He's going to want to return serve as quickly as possible. It looked like he was looking for a way past into the Della Roggia, but no way through. So Maximilian Paul consolidating 5th place there. And now that's Montemini serving the drive-through penalty there, coming out of pit lane now. No change in the top two so far. Pitamba got an awful lot closer in the first sector. Seems to have the legs on the Ferrari in the first and third sectors. Oh dear, that's the Jamie Stanley. Of course, a Ferrari that's gone for a spin down at the Della Roggia.
Yeah, unfortunately having to recover back onto the circuit. No visible damage that we can see on the car. Might have just been a case that he just lost it heading into the section, but will resume racing at this point. A bit of a gap now starting to formulate as Riker comes under more pressure here. He's now got Maximilian Paul, who's already managed to dismantle Thomas Neubauer. This is the moment as Jamie Stanley came in. Oh, contact there with the other motor park car, of course. Timo Rumpfkeil at the wheel of that one, of course, swapping in for Heiko Neumann as we now see the cars make their way now through. Look at Carol Bash, very aggressive as well on the back of Eddie Cheever. Now this is the Pro-Am lead fight right now, and Carol Bash and Cheever know all about what it's like to win races. Carol Bash knows what it's like to win this Pro-Am championship.
Yeah, 8th place overall, but the Pro-Am lead, as you rightly said, Rumpfkeil holding the Am lead as well, despite that incident that we just saw at the Della Roggia. Look how close Pitamba's getting for the overall lead though, and still that little front hood there just flapping away an awful lot, probably more than they would want. And look at this, Cheever's going for a place on Dan Arrow here, trying to get around the outside. This could be an opportunity for Carol Bash to get up the inside if he can get the better momentum out of this chicane. We're on board with Cheever now, expecting to see an Audi on our left-hand side. There it is, as Carol Bash drags past the Ferrari 296 and takes the Pro-Am lead.
Fantastic move from Carol Bash. We've seen his pace all weekend. Eddie Cheever frustrated there. The hand signal says it all. He wanted to take the Pro-Am win. He's just had it snuffed out by Carol Bash, the prosaic Pole, who's back again for an Olymp Racing team that have competed in this championship year on year and have always been competent. We saw Marcin Jedlinski give a stellar performance in his final stint only just yesterday, and now once again we're seeing them go at it this time around, and they have a great chance of bringing this one home in that Pro-Am championship fight. Once again, Maximilian Paul looking on the outside of Simon Riker. Bash has higher hopes on his mind. He has got a view on Dan Arrow as they make their way in towards the Ascari chicane yet again. A look to the inside once again from Max Paul. He is so aggressive. He is on point. Look how much he takes of the curbing on the inside. He's not scared to take on this Audi.
And Maximilian Paul wringing the neck of that Lamborghini Huracan. And oh, that was Marin Angeli getting very close to dipping a bit too close, or too much into the gravel there. And I'm sure that's given Pitamba a bit more impetus to try and chase him down. But so far, Marin Angeli soaking up that pressure in the lead battle, as is Simon Riker in this battle for 4th place as well. He leads this train of cars back over the line once again. Just over 5 minutes, less than 4 minutes remaining actually. The timing graphic at the top of the screen there is frozen. It is less than 4 minutes to go now, and Riker still leads them going into the first corner. Carol Bash has just surpassed the Dan Arrow Lamborghini as well, and up into 7th place overall. Managed to put a car between himself and his Pro-Am rival Eddie Cheever, and he'll want to clear that car as quickly as possible if he wants to return serve and get back into the Pro-Am lead fight. Leaders coming through the Della Roggia once again, still no change there, split by half a second, and Riker still ahead in 4th place when they get into the chicane.
We still have somewhat of 3 laps still remaining. You can figure that out certainly in the time pit stop of cars. Oh, the 007, that's the street art, I think, under investigation. Yes. And car number 6 as well. Aaron Walker being investigated as well. Let's ride on board here with Eddie Cheever, who now makes his way through the double right-hander at the Lesmo as well, trying to stay dialed into the back. Remember, of course, they are in the Pro-Am fight, but Carol Bash, of course, making that crucial maneuver as we rejoin the lead at the front. Nicola Marinangeli still keeping Mikael Pitamba at bay. Sam Nahan enjoying some free clean air here at this point as well, as we once again see Maximilian Paul haunting the rear wing on the back of the East Talent Audi R8 LMS. Certainly at this point now with Simon Riker at the helm, he's got to do his damnedest to try and keep the Oregon Lamborghini in behind. It's also inviting Thomas Neubauer to enjoy the mix too, as we see them now stretching all across the width of this track. Carol Bash also fancies a move in his own right too. The Pro-Am leader down the inside, a swooping maneuver, an experienced driver once again showing off his skills here at Monza, here at the Italian Temple of Speed. speed. He's going to try and go side by side here this time as well. And he's not alone. We have got a fight here brewing for 4th place with Simon Riker now being chased down by Max Paul, who knows exactly how to close out a race here like he did back at Hungaroring. Only a small matter of rounds to go. Is he going to go late on the brakes in towards turn 1? Side by side they remain, skipping over the curbs. They didn't make contact. How didn't they make contact? But Carol Bash has managed to get past Thomas Neubauer.
This is crucial for Neubauer Motor Park because that affects the overall points classification as well, despite Bash being a Pro-Am car. Max Paul, now he's found himself the inside line on Simon Riker towards the Della Rocha chicane. This could be 4th place. It is 4th place now for Maximilian Paul. He moved himself ahead of Simon Riker, and this is all great news for Ultimate Motorsport because 2 of their title rivals have just lost a place.
Yeah, they certainly have battled for 4th places still, though red hot. We have got Simon Riker right in the midst of a sandwich. Christian Korzeniowski has managed to move up to 14th and 2nd in the AM contest. He's only 1.9 away from Timo Revkyle, but Revkyle only 2/10 off the back of Dexter Muller, so trying to unseat a Pro-Am car in an effort to try and certainly raise himself. Oh, we got an update, 10 seconds.
For Revkyle, yes, for causing a collision with Jamie Stanley, and so that will lose him the AM lead because he's only 2 seconds ahead of Korzeniowski with less than a minute left on the clock now, so I think we'll be going on to the final lap shortly. Here's a replay of how Max Paul took 4th place away from Simon Riker.
Fantastic move it was around the outside of the curve of Grande and into the Roger chicane, smooth as you like, in front, and now Carol Bash is looking to do exactly the same, this time to Simon Riker, and look how much the 2 Audis are hugging each other, heading through the Kerber Alboreto Tiger line here for Carol Bash, who opens up the throttle yet again, battling it out here for 5th place on the table. Further points here for the Olymp Audi team, who now scoot onwards and upwards. It's Carol Bash now into 5th, Simon Riker down to 6th.
We're on to the final lap now, and for the first time the lead gap is over 1 second. Niccolo Marinangeli looking a lot more comfortable now ahead of Mikael Pitamba in that of course Ferrari, and set for a 2nd victory in 3 races, but we've still got battles to be settled out on track. Eddie Cheever still looking at the back of Dan Arrow's Oregon Lamborghini for 8th place here, and just in front of it we can still see the 5th place car of Carol Bash. That's how tight this pack is at the moment, with Simon Riker and Thomas Neubauer in the middle of them as Arrow covers up the inside there, keeps Cheever at bay for another corner, but the Cheever car is still 2nd amongst the Pro-Am runners. It's Carol Bash who has quite confidently taken that one, so long as he makes it to the end of this lap, which I'm sure he will. This is the lead gap that has started stretching out. There is Riccardo Agostini, the teammate to Niccolo Marinangeli, who is watching his teammate seal them another victory here, and then now there could well be a change for the last spot on the podium here, because Max Paul is already on the back of Sam Dehan. It's going to have to be a last corner dive or a drag to the finish line to deny the championship leaders another podium here.
He's done it
could
before.
Well change. Yes, he has done it before, because Max Paul is the master of the last corner move. But in the meanwhile, here comes Niccolo Marinangeli for the 2nd time in 3 races. It will be him and Riccardo Agostini who will be victorious for AF Corsa Ferrari. 2 Italians in an Italian car run by an Italian team who take the victory at Monza, and side by side across the line it was Max Paul who took 3rd place by just 0.04 of a second.
He's done it again, Maximilian Paul, last gasp chance to dance around the final corner. The Lamborghini hails onto the podium, but once again AF Corsa, this time at their home race, their home circuit here at Monza, they successfully take the crown in race 2. And for the 2nd time this season, a Ferrari 296 is on the top step. Carol Bash wins the Pro-Am contest. He takes it ahead of Eddie Cheever, Axel Blom finishing Pro-Am 3rd, with Christian Korzeniowski, Am victor, with Kiki Sangdana in Am 2nd.
Yes, confirmation. Revkyle with that 10-second penalty demoted to 3rd in class, and will still be on the podium. Korzeniowski taking the honours. Oh, it's gone from bad to worse for Frederick Jousset. Is he even going to see the checkered flag here? Because he's gone off at Ascari, but what a day for AF Corsa Ferrari, and equally, Mikael Pitamba and Reece Barr, their second podium finish, an even better finish than what they had at Red Bull Ring as well. This combination seems to be going from strength to strength.
They are growing into it. I spoke to Nicola Marinangeli yesterday, just in the paddock. We got to talk, and of course, relatively new to the GT3 racing, and obviously just understanding how to utilize the car in comparison to single seaters. But take us through the results.
Well, here are the results then. Nicola Marinangeli and Riccardo Agostini for the second time this season, victorious for AF Corsa. Reece Barr and Mikael Pitamba back on the podium for SBS Automotive Performance. Pierre-Louis Chauvet and Maximilian Paul by just 0.04 of a second. Now, hang on a minute, because Charlie Fagg and Sam Dehaan have been demoted to 9th place.
Goodness me.
Now, let me have a look here and see if there are any incidents that we might have missed, but they were 4th as we saw it, but they are down in 9th place. So we'll have to see what's happened there, but in the meantime, the Pro-Am victor was Carol Bash, ahead of Eddie Cheever and Axel Blom in the top 10. Nicolo Schurrer and Nicolo Rossi in 11th place. Christian Korzanowski, confirmation of the AM win there. Ahead of Kiki Saknana and Timo Rumpfkeil. A few retirements there. The Walker Wallace, Gatsby Mercedes, Cozy Serna and Giuseppe Cipriani, and of course, sadly, Nick Moss and Joe Osborne. So provisionally, with Sam Dehaan and Charlie Fagg 9th, that puts Diego Menchaca into the lead of the championship with 1 round remaining by 3 points. Simon Riker and Chris Vass are just 4 points back, and Maximilian Paul and Pierre-Louis Chauvet only 16 back. That is a tasty title battle going into the final round in just a few weeks' time. George, I'm absolutely baffled here. I did not see anything for the number 69.
Well, arguably as well. I mean, we've got to talk about Nicola Marinangeli and Agostini as well, because with that win in itself, mathematically, they are still in the title contest. 21 points now, the difference between them and the top. And Marinangeli celebrates here emphatically here at his home track of Monza. And he has done it on track. Safety cars out of the question. Of course, we did have one later on, but this was a straight fight to the line. And Nicola Marinangeli, understandably thrilled with that result and celebrating with a Ferrari team that are enjoying the result at home. Mikael Pitamba also delighted. Reece Barr gives him a big hug after they both went together. The Irish flag on the back of Reece Barr's shoulders as they celebrate together. What an occasion for this team.
Yes, South Africa versus Ireland in the Rugby World Cup last night. They were rivals then, but they are united today on the podium.
Absolutely, and we just saw Pierre-Louis Chauvet coming in to congratulate Marinangeli as well. There is Reece Barr alongside Pitamba, of course, giving their own courtesy congratulations as well to their competitors. They had a great chance, and look at this, Ferrari celebrate their victory in style. Oh, that's one you could take to the bank, that's for sure. And onwards now, Chris, it means we've only got 1 round to go. We're going to be heading to Barcelona. We've still got all this to come yet.
Yes, and of course, these two are now only 21 points back in the championship.
They're in the fight.
So an outside chance, but mathematically, yes, they are still in it. Anything can happen going into this final round. And we've got 5 different marks represented in the top 5 in the championship, which is just astonishing, really. And you know, from 5 different teams, a fantastic drive here from Riccardo Agostini and Nicola Marinangeli, second victory in 3 races. And they will be celebrating this one long into the night, I would imagine. The 2 Italian drivers in an Italian team, in an Italian car, winning at Monza. Of course, we will hear the Italian national anthem on top of the podium. Marinangeli there, taking off his helmet. So the top 3 then, Maximilian Paul and Pierre-Louis Chauvet still on the podium and keeping themselves in title contention provisionally with 3rd place for Oregon. Back on the podium, it's Reece Barr and Mikael Pitamba, the young dynamic duo of SBS Automotive Performance. But the victors, for the 2nd time in 2 races, it's AF Corsa Ferraris, Nicola Marinangeli and Riccardo Agostini, and they are downstairs with Alfredo Filipponi.
Again on the top step of the podium, and this time at home. You must be very, very happy, Ricardo.
Yeah, well, a super race. Pretty much unexpected today. I had a good stint, a good start, a good restart after the safety car. So I gained a couple of positions that put us on top of the field after the pit stop. So yeah, amazing job from the team. Great work from Nicola after the pit window. He was super quick. So everything went perfect today, and so thanks to everybody, thanks to AF Course, thanks to all the guys that are working with us. So yeah, we see you in Barcelona.
Nicola, everything under control in the second part?
Yeah, P1 this time in Atom feels amazing to be here. Mega job from Ricardo in the first stint. He was really, really good, no mistakes from all the team. So also from my side was really clear. And yeah, I tried to manage it until the end. Yeah, thank you to all the team, and let's see in Barcelona.
Well done. Bravi ragazzi. Festa ora.
Bravo ragazzi indeed. Let's look back at the highlights then from race 2 in round 6 of the International GT Open. It was Pierre-Louis Chauvet who led them off the line, but Charlie Fagg, the aggressor at the start, going bounding down the outside past Reece Barr and past Christopher Haase to take second place in the initial stages. Reece Barr actually ended up dropping back a couple of spots, but he would recover them alongside Mikel Pitamba eventually. There we see Fagg getting around the outside, Haase in third place. There's a couple of cars, including our race-winning car, had to skip over the curbs at the first corner. Diego Menchaca found himself in a bit of a scuffle with James Wallace in the early stages of the race. The first few laps not going quite according to plan for the Motor Park team, having to come up the order from 12th on the grid as James Wallace found himself in the gravel a couple more times as well. We had a safety car early on for Murat Rogeroglu, who ended up in the gravel at Ascari. A scary moment there for the man celebrating his 60th birthday. The driver changes came on and Maximilian Paul took over, and we had another incident here. Giuseppe Cipriani getting pushed into the barriers and ending up in the escape road at the first corner. And then another incident here, which would be the AF Corsa Ferrari slamming into the side of the GetSpeed Mercedes, taking them both out of the race. And then equally at the same time, Frederic Jousset ending up in the gravel at the first Lesmo as well. All that happening in a very short space of time meant we needed another safety car. When we got back underway, it was Marin Angeli leading the way in the unhandicapped car. Maximilian Paul found himself in the gravel after an aggressive move from Thomas Neubauer, but Marin Angeli soaked up the pressure from Mikel Pitamba and took a sensational victory for AF Corsa Ferrari on home soil. And now we head to the podium. It's Max Paul and Pierre-Louis Chauvet once again appearing on the podium. Reece Barr and Mikel Pitamba taking the flags to him, and a striking pose there from Mikel Pitamba. So great to see this young dynamic duo back up on the podium again for the SBS Automotive Performance team. But on the top step, it will be the two Italians, Riccardo Agostini and Niccolo Marinangeli for AF Corsa.
Yeah, what an occasion. And you can see the two flags, obviously. We referenced the rugby match between South Africa and Ireland yet again. But what an occasion. The crowd here that have built up, Italian fans. Here are the national anthem for you all.
Sensational moment for Riccardo Agostini and Niccolo Marinangeli there. They will take the trophies, and as it's the last race of the weekend, we should get some champagne spray as well. Sensational performance from this top three. And there we see the Oregon drivers taking their trophies. And I mean, George, going into the last round in the championship, which is only a few weeks away in Barcelona, we still cannot pick a title favourite. The complexion of this championship changes on the daily basis, it seems.
It does, and that's what's brilliant about this championship. We had it come down to the wire last season. It looks like it's going to do exactly the same this time around. But look at what it means. We saw the response from Nicola Marinancelli. He's had to face all kinds of scrutiny this season. Obviously, first time in behind the GT3 vehicle. Back in it again this time. He seems to be improving time on time. You only get results like this if you improve. And to do it here at Monza in an iconic location for this very team, AF Corsa as well, represented by Amato Ferrari. And as they spray the champagne, they're going to be absolutely thrilled. They will not mind getting the overalls wet for this one.
Certainly not. Especially look at Mikhail Pitamba there, loving it on the podium. They're such great couple of young lads, those two. I mean, the youngest pairing on the grid, I believe, at just 22 and 19 years old for Reese and Mikhail, respectively. Kiki Saknana looking very happy with himself, and yeah, that car finishing second in AM, despite Adam's moment at the Parabolica on the safety car restart earlier in the race. So excellent recovery there, and we should see the Pro-Am and the AM podiums as well. As the crowd moving on there, they've been treated to another exceptional race, and we're going to keep going on about it because this championship fight is something so intense. We are truly being treated to an unbelievable fight here in this edition of the International GTOpen, not just in the overall, but in the Pro-Am and the AM standings as well, because that is just getting closer and closer as well. And now we should see the Pro-Am contenders, Karol Bash and Marcin Jedlinski, going to the top step of the podium for Olymp Racing in their Audi R8. Second place did go to Eddie Cheever and Marco Polcini. They are back on the podium after what was a bit of a scrappy couple of races for them. And third place will be Axel Blom and Steve Jans. They won yesterday. They're on the podium today. And for the Olymp squad, that is their third class win in 4 races as well. Certainly they are on fine form at the moment, for worryingly for Polcini and Cheever, who went into this weekend with the class lead in the points.
Well, it should mean as well that Karol Bash and Marcin Jedlinski should jump Nicolo Rossi and Nicolo Shiro in terms of the championship. So this brings a really close fight now in towards Barcelona for the Pro-Am contest. So, and you tend to see Olymp performing at their best towards the tail end of a championship as well. And I'll say it again, I was really impressed with Marcin Jedlinski yesterday. I was really impressed with him again today. He did the job in the first stint and handed it over to Karol Bash, who really did bring it home in great style and fighting it out with Eddie Cheever towards the end. It was a fantastic move heading in towards Kerber Alboreto, and well worthy of that race win, as they'll spray the champagne here this time. Marco Polcini and Eddie Cheever, they're quite divided on the idea of spraying the champagne. A little moving away shot there, certainly from the AF Corsa team. But Karol Bash not hiding his jubilance. He knows what that victory means, and it means they can contest this title.
Yes, and it's double Olymp delight, because they've got victory not just in Pro-Am but also in the AM category as well. And I'm just trying to check. Yes, for the first time this season, that is, for Christian Korzanowski and Stanislav Jedlinski.
Bumper weekend for Olymp.
Yes, exactly. And that's only their second race in the Ferrari 296. They're still trying to get their heads around it. If this is what they're like at this stage with this car, then they are going to be a force to be reckoned with, surely, when we get to the final round at Barcelona. But Christian Korzanowski, the Nissan GT Academy graduate, of course, everyone's talking about the Gran Turismo movie at the moment, and Korzanowski was in that story. Maybe not so much in the film, but he was part of that scheme. And so once again, Timo Rumpkeil and Heiko Neumann for Motorpark on the podium there on the right-hand side. They were first across the line, but that 10-second penalty demoting them to third. Animo Seika and Kiki Saknana, second place for them in the Get Speed Mercedes. A great day again for Animo Seika's Get Speed team. For the first time this season, though, it's Stanislav Jedlinski, one of the oldest drivers on the grid, alongside Christian Korzanowski, one of the most brilliant bronze drivers in this series, who who will take the top step.
Celebrations there from Heiko Neumann and Timo Rumpf-Karl. Despite them losing out on a win, it's still not hiding their happiness at the result that they've achieved. Another podium going their way as they continue to fight for the title. Christian Korzanowski, we allude obviously to his brilliance as a bronze driver, of course competing in the VW Cup historically, has always been competitive, and obviously working with Stanislav Jedlinski, who has been an Ironman for this series for a number of years, and Olymp celebrating a stellar double victory, both obtaining the Pro-Am and the Am class victories. Oh. Kiki Sagnaner and Adam Oseka, a real drenching for the Olymp team. Timo Rumpf-Karl not leaving any stone unturned as Stanislav gets a soaking. I think Stanislav is going to give some back to him.
That cork flew off the podium. We can see it from our commentary box window. It went absolutely flying. And Adam Oseka is going to give the Motorpark points. Just an extra soaking there. Oh, Kiki, sorry, was doing that.
Stanislav's got his work in as well. This is what you get in return there, Timo. Goodness me.
Oh, absolutely sensational. What a weekend it has been at Monza. We have one round to go and the championship to decide. We will see you in Barcelona on the 21st and the 22nd of October.